right, folks, welcome to the blues lesson number 2. We're going to be talking more. The first 3 lessons are mainly focused around learning the chords and the rhythms, some rhythm stuff that you might run across when you're listening and playing the blues. So, week 1, we studied the shuffle, that kind of thing, right? Now we're going to try a different feel, and we're going to learn some chords. The feel we're going to study is the feel I played there at the intro, and we're going to apply it to the basic 12-bar blues that we learned in the last lesson, and also we're going to learn about the quick change 12-bar blues. All right, so we got our 1 chord, A7. It's going to look like this. It comes from, if you know your dominant 7-bar chord with the root on the E string. Play a major chord, take your pinky off, got a dominant 7 chord. But we're just going to play the higher strings. So really we just need to bar the 5th fret, D, G, B, and high E strings, and then the 6th fret on the G string. Because sometimes, depending on the ensemble that you're playing in, you don't want to always be necessarily playing those low notes. You got a bass player, keyboard player in there too. You kind of might want to stay out of their way and just play up higher on the strings. So that's what we're kind of doing here. So you got an A7 chord. We got our 9 chord. So this would be on our 4 chord in the key of A, which is D. So what you want to do, if you can, is bar the 5th fret of the E, B, and G strings with your 3rd finger. And then 1st finger on the 4th fret, D, and 2nd finger on the 5th fret, A. Now, if you can't quite get that bar, you can play it this way. And then you just don't hit the high E string. So those 2 types there that you can do. Then we're going to move that chord up to E. That's our 5 chord, and we're also going to be playing an F9 on the turnaround. All right, so the rhythm of this is all the way through. It's just 8th notes, but we're playing on, if you look at the tab, we're playing on the up beats, not the down beats. So if you have 8th notes and we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? 8 8th notes per measure. If you're in 4/4, which we are, you're playing on the ands. We're doing dead notes. Those are all the X's in the chart there. Those are on the downbeats. So it's 1 and 1 and. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now let me slow that down a lot. So all my upstrokes are when the chord is sounding out. My downstrokes are dead notes. How do I do the dead notes? You can do it kind of with your palm, muting the strings back here in front of the bridge, and having the chord ready to play but not pushing down. They're still touching the strings. You could use another finger to mute the lower strings. Although I'm not really playing those, so I'm not, with my strum hand, I'm not aiming for the A and E string. I'm aiming mainly for the D, G, B, and high E strings. So, and then I'm just constantly releasing, you know, chord, release, chord, release, chord, release. then we go to our 9 chord, 4 chord on D9. Then our 5 chord to our 4 chord, and then our 1 chord, and I'll show you different kind of turnaround here. So it's all there. So in the chart, let's try it a little faster. Okay, now sometimes it helps. You can play I didn't chart it this way, but you could play a down up on the first. So you actually hit the downbeat on the first bar. And that kind of helps you get in the groove. You know, you could do that too, but try to keep that. It's always on that upbeat. Okay, so it's the same 12-bar pattern we've been doing that we did last lesson. We just have introducing a new rhythm. It's tricky, so practice it slow, get it down, come back. All right, so let's take a look now. We have our 4 bars on the 1 chord, A, 2 bars on the D9, which is our 4 chord, back to the 1 chord for 2 bars, then we go to the 5 chord, the E9 for a bar, then the D9 for a bar, then back to the 1 chord for a bar, and then we have in measure 12 this different kind of turnaround here. So coming from the 5 chord, one chord. So on the last one, we're going to hit that last one, but we're also going to hit the downbeat of measure 12. Okay, bar 12. 8th note rest. Then we're going to, instead of going right to the 5 chord, we're going to approach it from a half step up and come back to it. So it's, and then we're right back into our 12 bars. So okay, so that, now you can do that approach from a half step below too. I like the half step from above, to me sounds better. But either works, okay? All right, so now kind of pause if you need to, get that down. When you're ready, let's study the same thing, but now we're going to introduce a new progression. It's 12-bar blues, still 12 bars, still 1-4-5 chord, but it's called the quick change version. We're just going to change 1 bar in this, okay? All right, so the quick change blues is exactly the same other than the second measure. We call it a quick change because it quickly goes to the 4 chord, but then right back to the 1 chord. So instead of 4 measures on the 1 chord, we're going to do 1 measure on the 1, 1 measure on the 4, and then 2 measures on the back to the 1 chord. So it would sound like this. Oh, sorry. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the rest of it is all the same. So it's Okay, so you can apply that as well to what we learned last week. So you're just going to that 4 chord in measure 2. All right, that's called a quick change. You're going to hear that a lot. You probably already have. Okay, so the only other thing we need to cover is some different chord types that you can use, because all these kind of blues chords are interchangeable a lot. So you don't always have to play a 7 chord. You could play a 13 chord. So how do we play a 13 chord? Up high, it looks like this. Why is it called a 13 chord? Well, it's an A7 chord, and you're adding the 13th degree of a major scale, which is also the 6th of a major scale, right? Because the 13 is just an octave 2 of a major scale. So if we have a 2-octave A major scale, the 13 is right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you take our A7 that we were playing earlier, and you add that 13 in there, you get this A13 chord. A little jazzier sounding chord. Totally interchangeable. You can even add it in to give your chord progressions, your rhythm playing, a little movement. There's 2 ways to play that A13. We have example 1 like this, where you're barring the 5th fret, so you get the high E string in there too. So the chord formula, right, is root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, and a 13. So we have our flat 7 here, our 3rd here, our 13 here, and the root here. That's our A. It just omits the 5, which is really common. All right, we have a different version where we add our pinky to the 7th fret E string. And that is adding the 9. Okay, so technically a 13 chord, the formula would be root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, 9, 13. So this, you're adding the 9 in there too. So it's got a little bit more, I don't know, attack kind of sound on it. There's the 2 different versions. So those are at your disposal, especially on the 1 chord, right? On the dominant 7 chord, there's also, you could play this shape. Instead of a 9 chord, you could play just a regular dominant 7 chord, like this. Comes from our major bar chord shape with our root on the A, which is an A. You know, if you've studied the caged system at all, it comes from the A major chord shape that we all play up here. But we gotta bar it. So you got 1st finger, 3rd finger, you're barring the 5th fret. So you get the 5th fret G string, then your pinky goes on the 7th fret B string, and then you got your 5th fret covered on the high E string. That's a dominant 7 chord. You can play that on E as well. So you you know, you could play 9 chord, or you could play the dominant 7 chord. So you got some stuff to practice. This rhythm, it's not easy. You got to do that, and we got to get familiar with these new types of chords if you're not already familiar with them. Get all that down, practice playing it in different keys. You don't always want to play in A, try it in C, B flat, G, you know. Same thing, right? We're just moving it around. Okay, so do all that, and in the next lesson we're going to do one more rhythm lesson before we get into the soloing and the scales and the improv stuff and studying some specific artists. We're going to do one more lesson on rhythm. We're going to study slow blues in lesson 3. All right, so happy practicing. I'll see you in lesson 3.